The jungle was a living thing, humid, green, and endlessly whispering. Deep within it, on the muddy banks of the great Napo River, the Spanish explorer Francisco de Orellana and his weary men found a fragile refuge. They had stumbled upon Imara, a quiet village lying about 7 miles below the point where the Aguarico pours into the Napo. Just weeks before, Orellana had left Gonzalo Pizarro behind, slipping downstream with a small band to search desperately for food. After a treacherous 8-day drift on the river, where the current pulled stronger than any arm could row, they arrived at Imara. The villagers, wary but kind, shared their stores of maize and yuca. For the first time in weeks, the men slept with full stomachs. But Orellana himself found no rest. His mind wrestled with an impossible choice: to return upstream and bring salvation to Pizarro's starving force, or to push further into the unknown current. He knew rowing back would take weeks, if not months, and might cost lives. But worse still, he knew what continuing downstream would mean: mutiny in the eyes of Gonzalo Pizarro. The man was infamous for his cruelty toward both native rulers and his own men. Abandoning the agreed rendezvous, even out of necessity, could be branded treason. Still, Orellana hesitated, clinging to the hope that Pizarro's party might somehow catch up. He even offered gold to any 6 men brave enough to paddle back upriver with a message of food and survival. Only 3 volunteered, driven more by loyalty than courage, but they demanded crossbowmen and harquebusiers for protection, and Orellana, stretched thin, couldn't spare them. The plan unraveled. Upstream, misery thickened. Pizarro and his 200 men hacked their way through choking jungle, eastward at a crawl, less than 3 miles a day. Horses floundered, men fainted, ant and spider bites brought fever and hallucinations. Torrential rains beat down hope. Starvation hollowed them until they chewed leaves and dug for bitter roots. Pizarro, grim-faced, sent 12 men ahead in canoes to find Orellana. After 8 days, they returned empty-handed. No food, no sign of their commander. Desperation darkened the camp. So Pizarro turned to his most trusted soldier, Gonzalo Diaz de Pineda, veteran of impossible journeys, the man who once crossed the Andes chasing the fabled Valley of Cinnamon. "Do not come back without food," Pizarro ordered. Pineda and his men set out, their paddles slicing brown water, hope thin but burning. Days later, they reached a broad, gleaming river flowing into the Napo, the Aguarico. Sunlight danced off its sandy bed, flashing like hidden gold. The locals called it the Gold Bearer. This, Pineda thought, must be the great river chief De La Cola had described. Along its banks, evidence, trees cut clean by Spanish axes, a wide clearing hacked from the jungle. Orellana had camped here only days before, but there was nothing left now. No food, no canoes, no message carved or nailed to a trunk, just emptiness. Pineda's heart sank, but he refused to fail. Certain Orellana had turned up the Aguarico in search of provisions. He rallied his exhausted men and turned their canoes upstream, vanishing into the green silence where Orellana's shadow still lingered. Little did they know, Orellana had gone just 7 miles farther down the Napo, waiting for them in the village of Imara, unaware that the gap between them was growing wider with every passing hour. As Captain Pineda and his small band of men paddled slowly up the winding Aguarico River, something caught their eye, signs of life, or what used to be. Along the muddy banks, nestled among the thick foliage, they spotted cultivated rows of crops, neat furrows of green rising from the soil. This wasn't wilderness, it was the edge of a vanished village. When they finally came ashore, soaked, blistered, and half-starved, they expected confrontation. But there was no one. The huts were abandoned, eerily quiet, as if their inhabitants had vanished into the trees. Just beyond them stretched wide fields of overgrown yuca, the starchy root that formed the foundation of Amazonian diets. For the Spaniards, it was a miracle. They had dreamed of gold, but now they hungered only for food. Without hesitation, the soldiers descended into the fields in a frenzy, tearing the yuca from the earth with bare hands. No preparation, no caution, just raw, urgent hunger. They gorged themselves, unable to resist. When they were finally full, bellies distended and spirits lifted, they loaded canoes with as much yuca as they could carry and turned back toward the Napo River. The return was brutal. Now weighted down by their precious haul, the journey back upstream was a grueling crawl. Each mile against the current came at a cost. When they finally reached Pizarro's main force, it had been 27 days since they had last seen them, nearly a month lost to hunger, struggle, and survival. At the camp, the moment the canoes touched shore, the half-dead men surged forward like wolves. They tore into the raw yuca, unwashed, uncooked, devouring it as if it were gold. In minutes, canoe loads vanished into famished hands. No fire, no preparation, just the raw, bitter roots pulled straight from the soil. For Pizarro, the message was clear. If they were to survive, they would have to reach the yuca plantations themselves. While waiting for Pineda's return, he had begun building a makeshift fleet of canoes, using jungle vines and carved tree trunks. Now they loaded their exhausted men and a few surviving horses and pushed off down the Napo, bound for the Aguarico confluence. But even with boats, the journey was slow. The size of the force and the need to ferry livestock meant it took 8 days just to reach the fork where the rivers met. From there, they turned into the Aguarico, but it wasn't over. They had to paddle another 30 miles upstream through a deep, sluggish stretch of river. What Pizarro did not know was that Orellana had never gone far. He was still at Imara, just miles downstream from the meeting of the rivers, a silent presence in the unfolding disaster. 17 days later, they arrived at the same abandoned village Pineda had found, only now they were even more desperate than before. Again, they threw themselves into the fields. This time, there was no restraint at all. Men collapsed beside the plants, chewing them with soil still clinging to the roots. It didn't take long for the first cries of agony to echo through the jungle. Bellies swelled grotesquely, men screamed, others staggered to the river, vomiting violently. The raw yuca, while abundant, was laced with cyanide. The Spaniards had seen how carefully the locals prepared the plant, washing, peeling, grating, and cooking it in complex, time-consuming rituals. But now, in the grip of starvation, there was no time. Whether they forgot the danger or simply couldn't wait, they had poisoned themselves. Over the next few days, sickness spread like wildfire. Some men turned jaundiced, their eyes yellowing, bodies fevered. Diarrhea, delirium, and death followed. Some succumbed to the poison. Others were killed simply by overeating after too long without food. It was a bitter irony. Salvation had nearly become their grave. Eventually, the survivors began to cook the yuca properly, learning from hard experience what the locals already knew. They established a temporary camp among the sprawling fields. Food was no longer the problem. In fact, some accounts claim the yuca plantations stretched for 120 miles along the riverbanks. For the first time in months, Pizarro and his men could breathe. They no longer had to wonder if they would live to see the next sunrise. With bellies finally full and no immediate threat of starvation, Pizarro had time to think and to brood. He couldn't stop replaying the moment he sent Orellana downriver, supposedly just for food. They had made an agreement. Orellana was to return to the confluence once supplies were secured. But days had passed, then weeks, no sign of the captain. In Pizarro's eyes, this was no longer a supply run. It was mutiny, betrayal. As he sat among the roots and the vines, chewing slowly on boiled yuca, his thoughts turned dark. His second-in-command had abandoned him. Justice, he decided, would be delivered personally. And so, beneath the jungle canopy and the thin, bitter smoke of campfires, he began to dream, not of gold, nor cinnamon, nor cities lost to time, but of retribution,